Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Vivek. Today we'll be covering a topic around building Cloudfront distribution for S3 resources using AWS CDK. Before we get started with Cloudfront, let's first understand the concept of CDN. So, what is CDN? CDN stands for Content Delivery Network. It takes more time for contents to be served to users geographically farther away from the content providing servers, which in turn increases content delivery time, causing a poor user experience. CDN provides a mechanism for contents to be delivered closer to the user. It achieves this by caching the content to locations closer to the user and directly serving them from those close by locations, thus increasing the speed of the websites and in turn improve users' adoption. CDN achieves this by deploying servers at hundreds of locations all around the world. These locations are also called point of presence or POPs, and the servers inside the POPs are referred as edge servers. Initially, CDNs were developed only to serve static contents, but nowadays the CDN services have become advanced to serve dynamic contents as well. So what is Amazon Cloudfront? Amazon Cloudfront is a CDN service that helps to distribute your static and dynamic content quickly and reliably with high transfer speeds. There are over 450 point of presence with automated network. Cloudfront also allows you to secure your traffic with encryption and access control. You can achieve cost reduction with zero data transfer fees out from AWS origins. If you like this content, please hit the like button, the subscribe button with the bell icon as well. It'll encourage me to build more content. Let's build a Cloudfront distribution for an S3 bucket using AWS CDK. We're going to be using the same repository that we used for creating a static website in S3 bucket using AWS CDK, and we're just going to build on top of that. If you want to check out the actual code repository, I'll give you the link in the description section. I'll also give you a link to the prior video. It'll be good if you can take a look at it, which explains you how to get started with AWS CDK and specifically how to set this up to create a static website and host it in AWS S3 using AWS CDK. If you get a chance to look at both the videos, it'll make more sense to actually connect that out here. As you can see here, we had our cloud infrastructure stack. It was creating a S3 bucket website, and we were using that to deploy in our pipeline. So the way we're going to do it is, for CDN, we're going to create a new stack. And it's a best practice to keep all your stacks separate in CDK so that you can achieve more modularization in case you want to reuse those stacks elsewhere. I'll give you a scenario is, let's say you have a Cloudfront distribution for one S3 bucket for now. But let's say if there's a need that comes that you want to use the same stack, but to reuse that for a different S3 bucket, you could use that if you define that as a separate stack, for multiple buckets. For that reason, let's just create a new stack. Let's give it a name, CDN stack. I have a simple stack with nothing in it, right? We call this in Cloud Infra. Let's just name this as Cloud Infra stack, and we would need the stack. The way we're gonna do it is, we're gonna call the CDN stack and pass the stack information out there. That's how we're gonna pass information from one stack to the other. What is the CDN stack gonna do? Let's just roughly write it out, right? This is gonna create CDN Cloudfront distribution, and it's gonna point it to an S3 bucket as an origin. So let's write that code. CDN is equal to new Cloudfront. We don't have that, so first let's make sure we import that. So I'm gonna do dot distribution. So I'm going to type in distribution. This I'm going to point this to origin, but I need a new origins, which I don't have, so I need to import that as well. So now that we have origins, I'm gonna just put it here. We need the S3 origin, so we're gonna use this S3 origin. Now what does the S3 origin actually need? Let's check that out. An origin that is backed by an S3 bucket. So it requires an S3 bucket as a property. And like I mentioned earlier, we have an S3 bucket defined here, but the scope of that S3 bucket is just within the stack. Let's create a public instance of an S3 bucket, right? S3, and I'm going to use the same S3 dot bucket out here. Okay, now we have a global handle, so outside this class we can access this S3 website bucket. We're going to make sure we're assigning this after the bucket has been updated. So let's just define after this pipeline stage. This dot website bucket is equal to, let's find out the constant that has the website bucket name. This is the name. I'm going to copy this name and I'm going to assign it to this reference. So now we have this handler outside as well. And let's make sure we have access to the stack. So the way we do that is, let's import that first. This is a class. We're going to copy that here. I'm going to make sure I define that as a property here. So I have that here. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to use this tag here. Cloud infra stack dot S3 website bucket. Let me go in here, sir. So I think this looks good. This is all we need, actually. If you look at the actual implementation of the CDK for setting up a cloud distribution in CDK, this is it. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. Probably you can write it in one line, but what I meant to say is this is all it needs. That's the beauty about AWS CDK. Now that we have this defined here, let's make sure we follow the best practices by passing on to the next stack. Okay, now here let's make sure we import the CDN stack first. Now what we're going to do is create a new instance of the CDN stack itself. So const CDN stack, and I'm going to initiate that with the CDN stack class name, which is going to be CDN stack, followed by the CDK app instance. It expects an app instance as the first argument, followed by the ID for this, and I'm going to give it a CDN stack as the ID, followed by the third argument it needs is a cloud infrastructure stack. We have that here. I'm going to use that and pass it out here. And last but not least is the props. In our case it's empty, so we're just going to pass empty. So now we have the CDN stack defined. In this case, if you actually logically think, CDN cannot work on its own. It requires an S3 bucket in our case, right? It's going to actually distribute the S3 bucket into its CDN network. There's a dependency that if you can see here. CDN stack by itself cannot work. It requires the cloud infrastructure stack to be completed, have the S3 bucket ready, and let the pipeline from the previous stack upload the artifacts onto that S3 bucket. Only once it's done with it, we have to get started with the CDN stack. Now, because logically there's a dependency here, we need to make sure we define that in CDK. And the way we do that is CDN stack is actually dependent on cloud infrastructure stack. So the way we do that is CDN stack dot add dependency and you can mention the stack that it's dependent on. In this case, it's going to be Cloud Infra stack. That's it. Now let's deploy the CDK stack to the AWS account using the CDK CLI. Okay, now let's get started by using our CLI and start deploying our CDK stack using the CLI command. Let's first check the delta by using CDK diff, which will help us compare our local stack in comparison with our cloud account. Now when you do that, it will show that I just have changes in cloud infrastructure stack a little bit around the website URL and CDN stack. Now let me show one more thing. When I do CDK deploy, this will give me error. The reason why it's erroring out is because earlier when we used to do this, we had only one stack, which was the cloud infra stack. Now you can see there are two stacks. So you can read out here in the prompt, it says that it's no longer a single stack. So you'll have to specify which stack do you want to actually deploy, or you can make sure that you use this command --all so that it will deploy all the stacks. So let's follow as per the instruction here and try to use CDK deploy --all. And when we do this, it'll actually prompt us to create all the resources pertaining to those two stacks. Keep in mind that Cloudfront takes a lot of time to actually deploy, so this might take some time. Now it took me almost close to 5 minutes. My CDN stack is also completed and I have all my resource creation completed. Now let's go to the AWS console and just verify if we have the CDN stack ready. So we'll see, okay, yeah, the CDN stack shows its creation complete. Events are completed and we have the S3 Cloudfront resource completed as well. Now let's go to Cloudfront. And there we have our Cloudfront distribution created successfully. Let's verify by copying this distribution domain name and we can paste it here. And there we have our website up and running in Cloudfront.